Femi's eyes flew open at 2:17 a.m. The room in his small Lagos apartment looked normal at first. Grey walls, the humming fan, the plastic chair by the window, but the air felt heavy, like rain clouds pressing down on his chest. He had that terrible feeling again. The feeling that someone was standing in the corner, watching him. He pulled the bedsheet to his chin. Then he saw it. A white figure, soft like smoke but shaped like a person, stood by the door. It had no face, just a bright blank space where a face should be. Femi could not move. His throat felt dry. The figure lifted an invisible hand, and the room went colder than ice water. The fan stopped. The window rattled. Femi's heart beat so loud he thought the neighbors would hear it. "Please," he whispered. "Let me sleep." The white figure didn't speak. It drifted closer, slow and silent, like a cloud sliding over the moon. When it reached the end of Femi's bed, the bedsheet began to tug away by itself. Femi grabbed it with shaking fingers. The sheet pulled, then ripped. He screamed, jumped up, and the light bulb exploded with a sharp pop. Darkness swallowed the room. Femi ran to the door, fumbling at the lock. His hands shook so badly that the key fell and clinked on the tile. He bent, grabbed it, and when he looked up, the white figure was nose to nose with him, if it had a nose. A soft wind whispered through the room, though the windows were shut. Femi's stomach turned. He covered his face. "I'm sorry," he cried. "I'm sorry for what I did." The wind stopped. The figure faded. The fan hummed again. The bulb flickered back to life. Femi slid down the door and sat on the floor, sweating. He knew why this was happening. He knew exactly why he could no longer sleep. Because of what he took. Ivdan, weeks earlier, in busy, noisy Lagos, the story began in a quieter way. Femi sat at the small dining table while his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Tunde, ate beans and plantain. The news played on a tiny TV. A man talked about money and success. Femi wasn't listening to the TV. He was listening to his father's voice, soft and careful, as he told the family story he had told many times. "In our village in Edo," Mr. Tunde said, "we have something special. It is a charm from our forefathers. It does not make you a billionaire by magic. No. But it stops poverty from holding our family like a chain. If you work hard and your destiny is bright, you will climb. That is how it is for the born of our family." Mrs. Tunde nodded. "Your grandmother keeps it safe," she said. "People come to her for prayer and advice. She never plays with it." Femi stirred his food but did not eat. He thought about his job that paid little. He thought about school fees he still owed. He thought about friends who posted pictures with big cars and shiny watches. He felt small. He felt left behind. "Can I visit Grandma this weekend?" he asked in a casual voice. "I miss her and Ado. I want to greet the elders." His mother smiled. "That is good." His father smiled too, but his eyes stayed serious. "Remember what I said. The charm helps, but greed kills. Do not go near what is not yours." Femi nodded. "Yes, Papa." But his heart was already moving in a different direction, like a goat that refuses to follow its rope. The road to Ado was long and rough. Femi's bus bounced over potholes, dust covered his jeans. But when he stepped into the village, he smelled firewood and heard children laughing. He saw old mango trees leaning over sandy paths. He felt a small peace he had not felt in Lagos. Grandma's house was at the far end, near a small stream. The walls were painted brown. A broom stood by the door. Grandma came out when she saw him and hugged him tight. "Ah, Femi, you have grown into a strong man," she said, smiling with her whole face. She blessed him, touched his head, and prayed. That night, she made hot pepper soup. They ate, talked, and laughed. But later, after Grandma slept, Femi lay awake and stared at the ceiling. His mind would not rest. He thought of the charm. He told himself he only wanted to see it, just to look, just to understand. Midnight crept over the village like a blanket. Crickets chirped. The stream whispered. Femi stood from his mat and tiptoed into Grandma's back room. He knew the room. He had played there as a boy. On a small wooden table sat a calabash bowl with a white cloth over it. A string of old cowries hung on the wall. A kerosene lamp glowed low, making the room look gold and orange. Femi's hands shook as he reached for the cloth. "Don't." A tiny voice in his head said. It sounded like his father. It sounded like his mother. It even sounded like Grandma. But the other voice, the jealous, hungry voice, spoke louder. You deserve this. You are tired of being last. He lifted the cloth. Inside the calabash was a small leather bundle tied with red thread. It looked simple, but the air around it felt thick, like the room had more air than it needed. Femi's skin prickled. He stretched his fingers toward the bundle. Just then, a cold breath touched the back of his neck. He froze. The kerosene lamp flickered and hissed. The walls seemed to lean in. A soft white glow rose from the corner near the cowries, spreading like milk poured into water. The glow began to take a shape, a tall, quiet shape, with no face. Femi swallowed, hand still hovering over the charm. From the front room came the creak of Grandma's bed. Someone or something was now standing right behind him. Femi spun around so fast his foot caught the leg of the table. The calabash rattled. The leather bundle nearly tumbled out. His chest thumped like a drum. There was nothing there, only the kerosene lamp, still hissing softly, and the shadows of the cowries dancing on the wall. He let out a shaky breath, but his palms were wet. His skin tingled, as if invisible eyes were still on him. Femi, the whisper came so softly, he thought maybe he imagined it. His heart leapt into his throat. He stepped back, bumping into the table. The calabash rocked. No, 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 he muttered, steadying it with trembling hands. His breath was quick now. He should leave. He knew he should leave. But his greed was stronger. He snatched the leather bundle, stuffed it under his shirt, and tiptoed out. The moment he stepped into the main room, the kerosene lamp went out. Darkness swallowed the house. The whisper returned, louder this time. Femi. He bolted, out of the back door, past the stream, into the night. His slippers slapped against the sandy path. His chest burned. He didn't stop until he reached the small lodge where travelers stayed near the motor park. By morning, the sun was bright and innocent. Chickens clucked. Children played. No one knew what Femi had done. He smiled at neighbors as if nothing was wrong. He returned to Lagos the next day. At first, nothing happened. He tucked the charm under his mattress and went about life. He expected money to rain on him, business to flourish, opportunities to fall into his lap. He even strutted to work, whistling, imagining himself as the next big man in town. But soon the dreams began. The first night, he dreamed he was running barefoot through the bush, chased by something white and shapeless. He woke up gasping. The second night, he dreamed he was drowning in a river, while faceless shadows laughed at him from the bank. By the third night, the charm itself appeared in his dream, glowing with white fire. A figure rose from it, tall and terrifying, and pointed at him. Thief, the figure whispered. Femi woke, screaming. Sweat poured down his back. His bedsheet was wet, as though he had been swimming. He tried to shake it off. Maybe stress. Maybe Lagos Wahala. But the dreams grew worse. He began to fear closing his eyes at night. By the fourth day, he looked sickly. His co-workers asked if he was ill. His boss scolded him for mistakes. Even his landlord asked if he had quarreled with witches. But Femi said nothing. He could not tell them the truth. That night, it escalated. The figure did not wait for him to dream. It came into his room while he was awake. He heard the fan stop. The bulb flickered. Then the figure slid from the corner of the room, white and faceless, and sat at the edge of his bed. He pressed his back to the wall, trembling. "Leave me alone," he whispered. The figure leaned forward, and though it had no face, he felt its eyes on him. His ears filled with a ringing sound. The air turned icy. His chest felt tight, like iron chains were being wrapped around him. He screamed, ran to the door, but his knees gave way. He fell flat on the floor. That was when he broke. That night, Femi rushed to his parents' house in the middle of the night, barefoot, his shirt inside out, his eyes red from fear. He banged on the door until Mr. and Mrs. Tunde opened, shocked to see their son trembling like a wet chicken. "Mama, Papa," he cried, collapsing at their feet. "I took it. I stole the family charm. And now it will not let me sleep." His parents stared at him in horror. "You did what?" his father thundered. Mrs. Tunde gasped, covering her mouth. Tears welled in her eyes. "Oh, Femi, what have you done?" But before they could say more, a cold wind swept through the living room. The lights flickered. A white shadow rose behind Femi, stretching taller, its faceless head almost touching the ceiling. Mrs. Tunde screamed. The charm had followed him. The white shadow loomed over Femi, silent but powerful, its faceless glow stretching against the cracked walls of his parents' living room. Mrs. Tunde clutched her chest, trembling. Mr. Tunde grabbed his son by the shoulders, shaking him hard. "What have you brought upon us?" he shouted, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry, Papa," Femi wailed, clinging to his father's legs. "I thought I could use it. I thought it would make me rich. But it's killing me. I can't sleep. I can't breathe. Please help me." The lights flickered again. The shadow bent low, almost brushing its glowing form against Femi's head. Mrs. Tunde screamed, rushing forward. She sprinkled holy water she kept in a small bottle across the floor, but the figure only hissed, growing taller. "Enough," Mr. Tunde barked, though his voice shook. "We must go to Ado. Only your grandmother can fix this." The journey to Ado felt like judgment itself. Femi sat between his parents in silence, sweat trickling down his back despite the harmattan breeze blowing through the cracked windows of the bus. Every time he blinked, he saw the figure in his mind, standing in the corner, reaching, always reaching. When they reached Ado, the villagers greeted Mr. and Mrs. Tunde warmly. But when they saw Femi's face, pale and haunted, whispers spread like dry grass on fire. "He has done something," one woman muttered. "See his eyes, like someone who offended the gods," another said. Grandma was sitting on her wooden stool by the stream, peeling cassava. Her back was bent, but her spirit was strong. When she saw Femi, her smile faded. Her wrinkled hands dropped the knife. "Bring him here," she said in a voice that left no space for argument. They sat in a circle inside her hut. The calabash bowl was placed in the middle, covered again with the white cloth. Cowries lined the walls, and the air smelled of herbs. "Tell me what you did," Grandma said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp, piercing into Femi's soul. Femi broke down. He told everything from sneaking into her back room, to lifting the cloth, to taking the bundle, to the nights of torment that followed. His tears soaked the floor. When he finished, the room was quiet. Grandma finally spoke. "This charm does not belong to one person. It belongs to the family. It was never meant to be stolen. That is why it has turned against you. It will not bless a thief. It will haunt him until he confesses." Femi bowed his head, sobbing. "I confess. I was greedy. Please, forgive me." Grandma leaned closer. "Forgiveness alone is not enough. A sacrifice must be made to cleanse you. Without it, this spirit will never leave." Femi looked up, eyes wide. What kind of sacrifice?" Grandma's voice was steady. "Final. A cow. A pure white cow. And you, Femi, must wear a white wrapper, bare your chest, and kneel before the family. Only then can the cleansing begin. And know this, the whipping will not be to harm you, but to cleanse your spirit of greed." Mrs. Tunde gasped. "Mother, must it be so harsh?" "Yes," Grandma said, her eyes still on Femi. "Because greed is harsher." The room fell silent again. At that moment, a sudden wind rushed through the hut, blowing the white cloth off the calabash. The leather bundle inside glowed faintly, and the white shadow rose from it, taller and brighter than before. It turned its faceless head directly toward Femi. Everyone in the room froze. The day of the sacrifice came like thunder. Word had spread across Ado village, and by noon, nearly every family member, young and old, had gathered in the compound. They formed a wide circle around the shrine where the cow was tied, its spotless white hide gleaming under the hot sun. The animal shifted uneasily, sensing the weight of what was about to happen. Femi stood at the center, his head bowed. A white wrapper was tied around his waist. His chest was bare, glistening with sweat. His knees dug into the sandy earth as villagers stared with hard eyes, murmuring. Some shook their heads, some spat on the ground. "Shame," an uncle muttered. "Greed almost destroyed him," an aunt hissed. Children peeped from behind their mothers, whispering. Femi's father stood tall beside him, arms folded, his face heavy with disappointment. His mother wept silently, clutching a rosary in her hands. Then Grandma stepped forward. Her wrapper was tied tightly. She carried a long staff, carved with symbols of the family's lineage. Her voice carried over the crowd, steady and commanding. "This boy, Femi, a child of our bloodline, broke the rule of our forefathers. He took what was not his, and for this, the spirit of the charm rose against him. Today, we will return the charm. cleanse his soul, and remind him that wealth without honor is a curse. The villagers nodded, some humming in agreement. Grandma raised the staff, pointing it at Femi. "Stand up." Femi rose to his feet, trembling. His wrapper flapped in the wind. He could not meet anyone's eyes. "Lay the charm before us," Grandma said. His hands shook as he brought out the small leather bundle. It seemed heavier now, pulsing like a living thing. He placed it on the ground before her. The moment it touched the earth, a cold breeze swept through the compound, sending shivers across the crowd. Chickens scattered. Babies began to cry. The white shadow rose from the bundle again, this time taller than the palm trees, faceless and glowing, its presence suffocating. Villagers gasped and stepped back, some falling to their knees. Grandma did not flinch. She lifted her staff high. "Today, you will be cleansed." 2 men came forward, cousins of Femi, each carrying a switch of palm fronds. Femi's eyes widened. He swallowed hard, his knees weak. "No, please," he begged. "Not in front of everyone." Grandma's eyes burned. "It must be in front of everyone, so that the lesson lives longer than the shame." The men circled him. Then, with a whistle through the air, the first lash struck his back. Femi cried out, falling to his knees again. The crowd watched in silence as the lashes continued sharp. Stinging strikes meant not to wound, but to cleanse. Each time the switch landed, the white shadow hissed, its glow flickering. "Confess," Grandma shouted over the sound. "Confess what you did." "I stole it," Femi sobbed, tears streaking his face. "I wanted riches without sweat. I thought I could cheat destiny." Another lash. "I dishonored my family," he cried louder. "I brought shame to our bloodline." The shadow shuddered, shrinking slightly. One final lash fell, and Femi collapsed on the sand, gasping. His body shook, but his voice was clear. "I will never steal from the family again. I will work. I will earn. I will live by truth." Silence filled the compound. Then Grandma raised her staff. "Enough." The men stepped back. The crowd leaned in. Grandma bent, lifted the charm from the sand, and placed it back in the calabash. She sprinkled white chalk over it, then slaughtered the cow with a swift, practiced motion. The blood was poured into the earth, sealing the sacrifice. The ground seemed to breathe. The shadow twisted, let out a sound like rushing wind, and vanished into the calabash. The air cleared. The heaviness lifted. Even the crying babies quieted. Grandma turned to Femi, who still knelt in the dirt, his wrapper stained, his body trembling. She placed a hand on his head. "It is finished," she said softly. "You are free." The crowd murmured. Some nodded, some smiled faintly. His mother fell to her knees, pulling him into her arms. His father stood still, his jaw tight, but his eyes glistened with restrained emotion. Yet even as the family embraced him, Femi knew this was not the end. For though the spirit had been sent away, the scars of greed remained inside him, and destiny would test if his repentance was true. That night, as the firewood crackled and the villagers feasted on the sacrificed cow, Femi sat quietly by himself, staring at the flames. He was free of the torment. But a voice in his heart asked, would he ever be trusted again? And in the shadows beyond the firelight, something moved. Watching. The night after the sacrifice should have been peaceful. The villagers had gone to their homes, full from the feast. Crickets sang in the bushes. The stream whispered quietly. Inside Grandma's compound, silence ruled, except for the soft crackle of the dying fire. Femi lay on a mat, staring at the stars through the open roof. His body ached from the lashes, but the pain was nothing compared to the shame still burning in his chest. He touched his cheek, where his mother's tears had fallen earlier. He was free. The spirit had left. Yet he felt hollow. Will they ever trust me again? He wondered. Will my name always carry this shame? Sleep came slowly, heavy as a stone. In his dream, he found himself standing in the forest of Addo. The trees were tall, bending toward him as if they wanted to listen. The moonlight made the leaves silver. Ahead, the white figure appeared once more, but smaller, gentler now. Its faceless head tilted, as though studying him. Femi fell to his knees, shaking. I confessed. I was cleansed. Why won't you leave me alone? For the first time, the figure spoke not in a hiss, but in a calm, echoing voice. Femi, the charm was never your enemy. It was your mirror. Femi's breath caught. Mirror? Yes. the voice replied. It shows the heart of the one who touches it. Yours was filled with greed. That greed chained you. Now you are free. But freedom is not the end. You must choose who you will become. The forest grew darker. Behind the figure appeared visions, shadows of Femi, living two different lives. In one, he walked in Lagos streets with pride, working hard, sweating, building slowly. His hands were rough, but his face was peaceful. His family smiled. In the other vision, he reached again for shortcuts, chasing fast money, cheating, lying. His clothes were shiny, but his eyes were hollow. The shadows of spirits circled him, laughing. The figure pointed at both visions. Your path is yours. The charm only ensures you will never be poor. But riches, honor, peace, they must come from your hands. It's not as they flossed. Femi's eyes filled with tears. He bowed low to the earth. I choose work. I choose truth. I will never dishonor my family again. The figure's glow softened until it was only a small spark of light. It drifted forward, entered his chest, and disappeared. The forest melted away. Femi woke to the sound of birds. The morning sun spilled into the compound, warm and golden. For the first time in weeks, his heart felt light. Grandma was already awake, sweeping the yard. She glanced at him, her eyes wise. You slept well, she said simply. Yes, Mama, Femi replied, standing to his feet. His voice was steady, humble. And I will not waste this second chance. She nodded, tapping her staff on the ground. See that you don't. In the months that followed, Femi's life began to change, not with sudden riches, but with slow, steady growth. He worked harder than he ever had. He stopped envying friends who flaunted wealth. He built a small business with honesty. He paid his debts. For the first time, people trusted him. His parents looked at him with quiet pride, and every time he visited Ado, he bowed before the calabash, whispering, "Thank you for teaching me." The torment never returned. The white figure never appeared again. But in his heart, Femi carried its final words. The charm is not your enemy. It is your mirror. Femi truly repented. He learned that shortcuts to riches carry chains heavier than poverty. The family's fortune was never meant to be stolen, but to remind them that hard work and destiny, guided by honesty, bring true success. And so, the boy who once could no longer sleep, finally found rest. Please, like this video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos.